Good morning. My name is Rob Connolly. I'm the president of Boys and Girls Clubs of San Francisco. I'm thrilled to have you all here at our Don Fisher Clubhouse here in San Francisco. I'm honored to have Attorney General Rob Bonta with us, Assemblymember Rebecca Bauer-Cahan. These two have been such great advocates here in California for all things kind of related to the safety of young people and for Californians overall. I also want to welcome Victoria Hinks and her husband Paul, who you're going to hear from in a little while. I'm happy to have Jim Steyer and Common Sense Media with us today. Jim and Common Sense have been great advocates and resources for what's safe and best for young people related to technology and the media and entertainment. Just a couple words on the Boys and Girls Club. So this is one of 14 locations we have, 13 here in San Francisco, one in Mendocino County. We serve school-age youth, age 6 to 18. High focus on what is right for young people in terms of services and safety. We have been here in San Francisco for over 130 years. Our focus is primarily on kids from at-risk circumstances, particularly communities that are under-resourced, and Boys and Girls Club shows up there with the resources young people need to thrive. Our programs are focused on academics, healthy lifestyles, job readiness, leadership development, and job placement. Our members regard the club as a safe place for them and a place that celebrates and honors childhood. So with that, I am pleased to introduce Rob Bonta, our Attorney General. Rob's a good friend of mine. We've known each other for over 30 years. I've got nothing but wonderful things to say about Rob as a person of integrity and a person with a great heart and a great mind. So with that, Attorney General Bonta.
Thanks, Rob. Thank you. I did not pay Rob Connolly to say that, and I very much appreciate it. It's very kind and generous of him. Good morning, everyone. I just want to say thank you for joining us here at the Boys and Girls Club of San Francisco. Thank you to the Boys and Girls Club of San Francisco for hosting us, and thank you to Rob again for that very kind introduction. Rob has been a great friend for a long time. We went to college together, and he sets the standard very high. For just being a wonderful human being, an incredible leader, an amazing advocate for children. He's been serving in this critical role here with the Boys and Girls Club for 25 years and going strong and not slowing down. So it's my honor to stand side by side with him today and present and talk about this important bill to lift up, protect, and defend our children, their mental health, their future. It's really important to us that we're here today. I can't think of a better location to talk about a bill that's aimed at protecting young people on social media than an actual space, a physical space, where our kids can come to connect, learn, play, grow, develop, thrive in real life, off of their phones and off of social media. And so we're grateful to be here. I do want to just thank all the wonderful folks here today. Again, Assemblymember Bauer-Cahan, who we have worked on many bills together. We're working on others as well. I'm always grateful for the opportunity to sponsor bills that she is authoring and leading. I think we're a great team, and this is another example of it. Victoria Hinks, a mom of two who is here to share the tragic and terrible impact social media has had on her own family. I'm grateful for Victoria's courage and strength and willingness to be here today to talk about this important issue. And my great friend Jim Steyer, who is founder and CEO, of course, of Common Sense Media, advocating in so many ways, places and spaces for our children. We got an incredible coalition here who care deeply about our kids. I do want to also say thank you to my team, without whom we wouldn't be here and able to present this bill to you. Those at the DOJ who worked diligently to make today possible, especially our consumer protection and government law teams and our Office of Legislative Affairs, so many of our teams represented today. Over the last decade, social media platforms like Facebook and Instagram and X and TikTok have become an ever-present, nearly inescapable part of our daily lives. Living and beeping in our bags and pockets, on our desks, and on our computers, seemingly at all hours of the day and night. While social media has many incredible benefits, and it has many incredible benefits, from connecting loved ones to giving people an outlet of expression, providing access to critical information, creating jobs in our state, there is no disputing the fact that it can also have an enormously detrimental and dangerous impact on our young people. You cannot debate that. Our children are suffering. Studies have shown that more time on social media tends to be correlated with depression, anxiety, body image issues, susceptibility to addiction, interference with daily life, learning loss. In fact, adolescents who spend more than 3 hours a day on social media face double the risk of poor mental health, including depression and anxiety. And excessive and problematic social media use has been linked to sleep problems, to attention problems, and feelings of exclusion. So let's be clear, this isn't theoretical. It's not a study about what might be. This is about real children and teenagers, real families, real impacts on real lives. Families like Victoria's, whose daughter, Alexandra, died by suicide earlier this year at just 16 years old. Before her passing, Alexandra's struggles with mental health were only made worse by the dark and endless content she was served on social media that was served up to her. Again, I want to thank and commend Victoria for being willing to tell her family's story today. And I want to share my deepest condolences and sympathies on their loss. As a father of 3, I cannot imagine the pain Victoria and so many other parents and families across the country are experiencing as a result of social media. The pain of watching children sucked into these platforms for hours on end. Platforms that are built and designed to addict them. And they do it so well. Platforms and advanced algorithms that purposely prey on the psychological and developmental vulnerabilities of young people to keep them hooked, to maximize frequency and duration of use. Beauty filters and autoplay, infinite scroll, ephemeral content, push notifications, likes and comments, all designed to addict and very successful in doing so. What's worse is social media companies know all of this and more. These companies know the harmful impact their products can have on our children, and they refuse to take meaningful steps to make them safer. They know they're addictive. They know they harm children. They know they're not safe, and they refuse to act. They've had ample time to make the right choice. They've had time to address the devastating toll their products are having on our families. Time is up. It's time we stepped in and demanded change. Assemblymember Bauer-Cahan's bill, AB 56, is that change. AB 56, which I've signed on to sponsor, would require social media to come with warning labels about the mental health risks associated with their platforms. If this legislation is successful, social media companies would have to show all users, regardless of how old they are, a black box warning the first time they log on and once a week after that. Right now, the language we proposed for the label is the following, straightforward and simple. The Surgeon General has advised that there are ample indicators that social media can have a profound risk of harm to the mental health and well-being of children and adolescents. That's the label. This label won't solve everything, but it's critical in raising awareness about the very real public health crisis that we're in. This is about ensuring all consumers have the same base information about what they're signing on to, regardless of how tech-savvy they are, regardless of how much they know about this industry and these products, regardless of how much free time they have to research and dig into a complex topic. This label is just like the warnings on cigarette cartons and on alcohol, like nutrition warnings. It is about information and education educating young people, parents, care providers, doctors, teachers, and lawmakers. It's about raising public awareness. It's about shining a light on the dangerous reality we've been swiping through. If this warning label helps any parent better understand the dangers their kids face on social media, if it helps any parent or caregiver talk to their kids about social media use, if this warning label makes any teenager or child, or frankly any of us, pause for even a beat to think about what they're logging onto, think about what they're about to consume, think about how it may impact their mental health, this warning label will be a success. This bill, this warning label, isn't a panacea, we know that. But it is another tool in our toolbox. It's one prong in what has to be a multi-pronged, continued coordinated effort to address this public health crisis, a continued push to hold social media companies accountable for making their platform safer for children. This label can't stand alone. Lawmakers and public health agencies, healthcare professionals, schools, parents need to stand united and demand better for our kids. We need to continue working with social media companies to make their platforms safer. As Attorney General of California, the home of Silicon Valley and birthplace of social media, I am keenly aware of both the promises and the pitfalls of social media. I'm dedicated to uplifting the good it can do and protecting our most vulnerable from the risks it can pose. I'm dedicated to working with social media companies that want to work with us, that want to turn the ship around and make meaningful changes to their platforms. My door is open to them. It's when companies don't want to work together, don't take ownership, accountability, responsibility, that we need to step in. And so we're here. It's why I'm suing Meta and TikTok, why I sponsored the Protecting Our Kids from Social Media Act last year, and why I'm sponsoring AB 56 this year. We want California's businesses to thrive and prosper. We want them to employ our workers, contribute to our economy, and develop innovations that will take us into the future. And yes, we want them to protect our kids and make sure they're safe. We won't allow any business, including social media companies, to exploit our children as a means to their profitable end. Before I turn it over to our next speaker, I do want to just take a moment to thank some of the individuals at our Department of Justice leading this work. I want to call them out by name. I know I'm embarrassing them, and they don't do it for the acknowledgement, but I want to acknowledge them and thank them. Barney Eskandari, Stacy Schesser, Nick Akers, Kristen Liska, Anya Binsaka, Anthony Liu, Lisa Nakashima, Amy Alley, Ellie Bloom, an incredible team. Thank you to all of you for your incredible work. So I'm now pleased to welcome the bill author, Assemblymember Bauer Kahan, to say a few words.
I want to start by thanking our incredible Attorney General, who I had the privilege of serving with in the legislature and now consider a continued partner in the good work that we do as California's Attorney General. Not only are we both policymakers, but we're both parents. And much of what guides the work that we do is our love for California's children. And that's why we're here today, because the promise of social media, although real, has turned into a situation where they are turning our children's attention into a commodity. The attention economy is using our children and their well-being to make money for these California companies. And if my job is nothing else, it is to protect the children in our community. It is to keep them safe. And as the mother of teenagers who every day sees the mental health crisis that is so real in our community and amongst our youth, I know that we not only can sit down and talk about it, as we do in the Privacy Committee every time we convene, but we need to act. And that is what AB 56 is attempting to do. As you heard from the Attorney General, he has sponsored many bills on this topic, as has Common Sense Media. I know this has been Jim's life work as well, to protect our kids from media and the harms that are in it, and also deliver to them the promise. Part of what I love as a parent as it relates to Common Sense Media is finding the good content, the good pieces of what is out there to help educate and allow our children's minds to grow and expand, because there is so much in that space. But the hours that are spent on social media right now are not that. We all know that we're in the midst of a global mental health crisis. In the last decade or so, young people around the world, especially our young girls, have experienced a dramatic spike in rates of depression, anxiety, self-harm, and suicide. This crisis is real, urgent, and it is getting worse. This collapse of youth mental health coincides with the rise of social media. I grew up in an age without social media, and I saw nothing like I see today. As our children have shifted their social lives online, study after study shows that this heavy social media use correlates with the higher rates of psychological distress you heard from the Attorney General. We also know when they reduce their social media usage, their mental health improves markedly. It is the combination of addictive features and toxic content that overwhelms these adolescent brains. There is a powerful profit motive to keep our young people hooked online and engaged, and it is exploiting the human psychology with notification, likes, endless scrolling, and algorithmic amplification that is harming our children every day. In addition, Section 230 of the Communications Decency Act of 1996 allows toxic content to proliferate online with no responsibility by the platforms. Parents like me and the Attorney General and Victoria are witnessing firsthand the damage that this is doing to our children. And they're aware. Many of you probably know this. Our children are aware of the harms, but they feel trapped. They feel afraid of being isolated, and they just can't stop. The companies know this. They know the damage they're doing. We've heard it from the folks inside these companies who have testified on the issue. And so in 2023, U.S. Surgeon General Vivek Murthy issued the landmark report on social media's impact on youth mental health that brings us here today. The Surgeon General's conclusion was that the current body of evidence indicates that while social media may have benefits for some children and adolescents, there are ample indicators that social media can have a profound risk of harm to the mental health and well-being of our children and adolescents. It doesn't have to be this way. We've made other things safe, cars with seatbelts and airbags. We've put warnings like this on cigarettes, and we have seen the decrease in smoking amongst our youth. We ground planes when we need to. We recall tainted foods. We protect our communities as a government. That is what we do. That is our greatest calling. So here, where we know that social media is inflicting harm, it is our calling to do that yet again. And that is what this warning will hopefully do. Other countries around the world are taking meaningful action. Australia recently banned social media for all children under 16. So AB 56 responds here in California to the Surgeon General's call to put a warning label on social media. It's simple. You've heard from the Attorney General what it would say. It would pop up. It would notify the user of the potential harms that social media poses. Just as I mentioned, smoking rates were reduced through a global adoption of health warning labels that built awareness of the negative effects of smoking. We're hopeful this proposal will do the same. It will raise public awareness and turn the tide in this public health crisis. As Dr. Murthy has stated, one of the worst things for a parent is to know your children is in danger and yet be unable to do anything about it. That is how we as parents are told to feel when it comes to social media harm, helpless and alone in the face of toxic content and hidden harms. This is a struggle that every parent faces every day. How do we teach our kids how to use social media, and yet how do we spare them from the harms of it? And so this is one additional step in the tools that California is putting forward for our parents and for our children to allow them to step away, to find the healthy brain that they need, to grow, to thrive like they do here at the Boys and Girls Club every afternoon. That is what we want for California's children. As I tell my kids every day, I want one thing for you, to be healthy and happy. And that's what we hope for California's children. And we hope that this warning will help deliver that promise. With that, I want to turn it over to Victoria Hinks. And before I do, I want to say that in Judaism, when someone loses a loved one, we say, may their memory be a blessing. And I know with all my heart that the work you are doing here today to save other children from the harms that your daughter suffered from is making her memory a true blessing. With that, Victoria Hinks.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Good morning. I'm Victoria Hinks. I first want to thank Attorney General Bonta for inviting me to participate today and for all of his many efforts to hold the social media industry accountable for public health. This is a public health crisis facing our children, and for taking action to change it. And thank you also to Assemblymember Bauer Cahan for authoring the critical bill. We need it. It isn't the sole answer to the problem, but it's an important step in the right direction to making sure everyone who uses social media and parents deciding if they should allow their kids on social media know the risks. I'm here today to tell my story, or rather to tell my daughter Alexandra's story, because she cannot. Alexandra Lilly, who we've lovingly called Owl since she was born, and her older sister pronounced her name Alexandra. Alexandra, who loved animals, especially her Westie dog Elsa, loved her friends, cross-country, skiing, writing, movies, and musical theater. My beautiful Alexandra, who got sucked into the world of social media only to be convinced that she wasn't pretty enough and needed beauty filters. Who was served content about self-harm, eating disorders, suicidal ideation, and glamorization of suicide. Who was led down dark rabbit holes she had no chance of escaping. My beautiful daughter Alexandra isn't here to tell her story because she died by suicide 4 months ago at the age of 16. There is not a bone in my body that doubts social media played a role in leading her to that final irreversible decision. And for those who try to shame me or my husband for not doing enough as parents, for not stepping in, let me tell you, we absolutely tried. We tried to put off letting her on social media to begin with. We held out for a long time, but the peer pressure on her was so massive that it wore us down. We followed the advice of the experts. We made her sign a contract allowing us to keep control of her phone, inspect its contents. We made her promise to hand the phone in at night. We added parental controls to prevent her installing apps without approval and limiting the amount of time she could use on the phone. We had devices running that filtered out inappropriate websites, and we felt sure that we were doing all we could to keep her safe from the world of social media. But what worked for her at 13 didn't work for her at 16. She found ways to bypass most of these controls, and she was hooked. She was constantly online, especially TikTok. She'd hide her in her room for hours scrolling. We tried to pull her out. We took her door off the hinges. We tried to take her phone away at night, but it was like taking a drug away from an addict. Again, we set up TikTok's so-called parental controls to limit Alexandra to 1 hour per day. It meant nothing. I have her phone now, and I've tested it. At the 1 hour mark, TikTok gives her profile the option to bypass the limit. Alexandra was even in regular therapy. None of it mattered. After becoming consumed by social media, Alexandra became a different person. She was no longer the happy, energetic kid of her youth. She was obsessed with comparing herself to girls and women online, including the same girls who horribly bullied her at her school. She was caught in a doom scroll of dark, depressing videos. And especially after COVID, she felt like social media was her way of connecting with the world, when in reality, it was isolating her from everything. I wish I could go back and do it all over again. I wish I could tell myself what I know about these platforms now. I can't. But I can stand up here today and tell you my story, tell you our story, tell you that this could be your story. This could be your niece, your nephew, your grandchild. This could be anyone's kid. It doesn't discriminate. But it doesn't have to. We have the time and the power to prevent these tragedies and save our kids. Parents can unite and demand better from social media companies, from lawmakers and schools. We can partner with lawmakers and advocacy groups like we are here today. We can educate other parents and caregivers, children, teachers, doctors, and lawmakers about the dangers of social media for young people, especially young girls. These companies know that social media is particularly harmful to teenage girls. We can support laws like AB 56 that would raise public awareness about the issue. We can demand that companies like TikTok and Meta use their expansive resources and unbelievable technological advances for good, like actually creating limits and parental controls that work, actually blocking and removing harmful content and keeping kids who are too young off their sites, making sure parents and caregivers know the risks their children face online. I can't bring my Alexandra or Al baby back, but maybe by speaking up, I can help prevent another family from experiencing the absolutely devastating loss we've experienced. Maybe I can help create the change we need to see before it's too late for another family. And that's why I'm here today. I refuse to let Alexandra's short life be in vain. Thank you. I wanted to also introduce CEO and founder of Common Sense Media, Jim Steyer.
Well, first of all, Victoria, thank you so much for your courage, your leadership, and as Rebecca Bauer-Cahan said, you are making your daughter's life a blessing for all of us, and we are so deeply grateful to you for doing that. Because we're about to win this, and we're going to win it here in California, and then we're going to win it across the country. And I am really honored to be here with my friend, Attorney General Rob Bonta, my other friend, Rebecca Bauer-Cahan, and Rob Connolly, the two Robs from Yale. And they've said it all. This is a moment. This is a tobacco moment for the country. It's a tobacco moment for the state of California, and it's really a tobacco moment for the big social media platforms, because this warning label will have a profound public awareness impact that no other kind of legislation would do. As Attorney General Bonta and Assemblywoman Bauer-Cahan have mentioned, there's other legislation that we've spearheaded over the past few years and will be spearheading in 25 and beyond. But none will go to the heart of the issues that you raised, Victoria, as much as this simple message to young people, to parents, and to the companies themselves about why they need to be held responsible and accountable for the harms to young people. Because there are thousands and tens of thousands of Alexandras out there. And we are all parents. All of us are speaking, as you heard, about our own kids, because we've all experienced this as parents. And Rebecca, when you said it, we're also fortunate we didn't grow up with this. And I think that as a parent, as an educator, and as a child advocate. But the truth is, we know how to solve this. We are going to solve this, and this is a major step in the right direction. As Attorney General Bonta said, we have seatbelt laws, we have warning labels on cigarettes and alcohol, and that's what we're doing here. It's a straightforward, simple proposition, which is put your kids and teenagers first, put their self-interest first, and hold the largest, most powerful, and wealthy companies in all of our lifetimes accountable for the harms that have happened on their platforms. The folks up here have done a very fair job of talking about the benefits of social media. We've been doing that for 20 years at Common Sense, but the harms are manifest and clear and need to be held accountable now. So it's my honor to be up here, and let's go and pass this legislation, and then we will pass it in other parts of the United States, around the world, and we will make it a better life for all of our kids, for the Alexandras of the world, and for all of your children as well. Thank you very much. And I guess we'll take questions.
Thank you.